exactly?
Look, today what we want to cover off is very specifically some support and some guidance for the peer reviewers and validators that are taking part in the Digital Educator Award Scotland pilot. So we've had a few sessions. So we started off in September with our onboarding, and we had one clinic in January for the organisations and applicants. And we're really grateful to you all for the feedback and to give us some guidance in terms of perhaps what was missing. So we did create a couple of explainer how-to videos. I hope they helped in terms of the online process. And then I tried to make some changes on the toolkit to make it a bit more easy in terms of, you know, accessing the information in the toolkit. So we reshared the toolkit after that call. I hope everybody has a copy of that, because that's also going to be very important for you to share with your peer reviewers and validators. We're also very grateful to Emmanuel, who's on today's call. He's the product manager with Skills for Innovation, and he held a workshop there in February and shared a recording of that session for anybody who didn't miss it. And today then we want to, as I said, host a next update. Any additional questions that you might have now that you're probably further along in terms of the process. And then just looking forward to the next couple of months, our expectation, our hope is that we would try to encourage as many applicants to go forward for final validation in the May timeframe or before. We would like to survey all of the participants and the organisations in May, so that in June we can create an evaluation report and make some final recommendations for the programme. And that hopefully will sort of set the scene in terms of a national rollout, if that can happen. So these are hopefully our expectations. I would say that obviously if you don't and can't complete your application in the May timeframe, you can still go forward in May and June. That's not a problem. From our own point of view, we obviously do want to try to get feedback so we can make the recommendations and plan for a rollout in September. But you can obviously continue on your journey as and when you can. So for today, then, I'm going to hand over to Victor. Victor has prepared some material to share with you around the peer review and the validation process. But all of that is built on the toolkit that we circulated, which has all of the detail in it, and that you can share with peer reviewers and validators, because if you haven't looked into it, at the back end of that document, you get some really good content there that will help guide them in their role. I'm also delighted then to invite Emmanuel and his colleague Margaret Purdue, who's the Global Community Manager for Intel Skills for Innovation. And Margaret will be able to share with us how the Intel Ambassador Programme links into the professional development modules that many of you will be taking up as part of your development process. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see and to hear from Margaret what an Intel Ambassador Programme looks like and how you can be involved in that. And then finally, we're going to give over the rest of the time to general questions that you might have. So Victor, with that then, I will hand over to you.
Oh, thank you. Will I just go ahead and share my screen then, is that?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen. As I understand, my role today is to just review the 3 pathways, but in particular focus on the peer review and validation processes. So just to remind you, you now know, presumably, that we have based the Digital Educator Award very much on the current Teacher Digital Skills Framework. As with all of our award programs, we reference in very, very closely a lot of European digital education policy initiatives, and of course what comes best from other jurisdictions. So the first pathway then, of course, is the Digital Educator. As I've said before, this is targeted at practical teachers in the classroom doing excellent digital work and wanting to be recognized for that work. This is not necessarily the teacher who is influencing others, but he or she is making excellent progress in using the digital skills. Of course, those digital skills will be part of the wider school program, but this is the teacher who, and the focus is almost unashamedly on the teacher digital skills framework and promoting that framework in the classroom and congratulating the teachers for those skills. The second pathway then, of course, is the digital influencer. The digital influencer can also be a teacher. He or she could be perhaps maybe a head of department, but there's no particular focus on who this person is or his or her role in the school as such as a teacher, but rather the focus is on his or her role in supporting and developing others. Now, that could be through formal CLPL, it could be through informal CLPL. This could be a person who's working extensively in a school to support his or her colleagues. It could be someone who's working perhaps across a cluster of schools, maybe working with primary schools in a cluster as a member of the secondary school staff, or indeed maybe working perhaps even as an LEA, local education authority person. But the whole purpose of that is that he or she is supporting others technically and pedagogically, and not necessarily strategically. So the idea is that this is almost like a horizontal influence in helping others. And we felt it was very important to recognise the many teachers who are out there who are working flat out in their schools, who are supporting other teachers, who are deciding on pathways for professional learning, who are perhaps influencing policy in their own way in the schools, but who are influencing teachers as a result of their work. And we felt it was very important to recognise that and to award. There's very many teachers out there who are doing that. And these may, as I said before, these may not be in positions of leadership. And then the third pathway, of course, is the Digital Leadership Board for those who are effecting strategic change. Now, what some people are asking, what's the difference between the digital influencer and the digital leader? The digital leader, the biggest difference between the two is the digital leader is affecting strategic change. He or she has strong influence in making policy decisions, either in the organisation, in the cluster, or even perhaps across a range of and a number of schools and organisations. So it's that decision-making ability, or the ability to influence decision. Typically, a digital leader will probably be a senior teacher, a digital coordinator. He or she might even be a principal, head teacher in a school, and affecting that change. Those are the three major pathways for the award, and we feel it's important to do that. So, coming back to the digital educator, you'll notice the 6 areas there, reflecting the teacher digital skills framework. And when we come to then the big question, I think, for you today is perhaps, well, how do I make a decision about which pathway that I choose? Well, those of you who are familiar with our award program will be familiar that we have 3 main activities, if you like, within our award program. First of all, there are the criteria, and they're always down, well, in my view, I'm showing you them down the left-hand side of each table there. And they will have the, if you like, the criteria, the descriptions, the descriptions. They will have the things that we want to see in the award program. And my suggestion is, when you go onto the website, and I'll go onto it in a moment or so and show you, have a browse and have a look at the criteria or the statements within each of those, and you will know instantly, I'm sure, where you best fit for those statements. You will know if you're a teacher and you're working hard in your classroom. You will know that if you're influencing others, there's a lot of statements there that describe that and what it looks like and what it should be looking like. And of course, if you're a digital leader, you will recognize the leadership statements. As with all our programs, you will then see examples of what this might look like. Now, it's very important to say, when we look at that middle column, as I have it, when you go onto the website, you'll see lots of little green boxes which give you examples and lists of what the particular award might look like in the classroom or in the school. These are suggestions, so we're not saying you must do these. These are suggestions that you might like, little prompts and things. You might have your own. You might have totally different ways of exemplifying your Educator Award, your Influencer Award, or your Leadership Award. And then, of course, as always, we have the references, the helps, the links. Should you want to take your application further, or should you need more support and information? Perhaps there are things in the criteria that you don't yet you're not yet doing, but you think it's a good idea to maybe apply to your teaching or your leadership or your influencing, and you might want to go and do those. So really, the award program is like a roadmap as well as if you like, a checklist for the award. So really, we're looking at the process here is when you apply, of course. We're suggesting that teachers might also want to look at selfie if you wish to, but that's not compulsory in this particular award. And you might also want to look at the Teacher Digital Skills Framework and, of course, the Intel. And I'm delighted that our colleagues are going to be speaking about Intel, Skills for Innovation Framework, in a moment, and give you a wee bit more information on that. Once you've done that, then you'll begin to choose which pathway best suits the work that you're doing, and then you can go ahead and start to upload the evidence, and I'll show you that in a moment. When you get to that, then the application phase is when you begin to think about consolidating everything and asking your reviewer and perhaps a validator to begin to get involved in that. You'll see that early on we've said it's good to try to get your reviewer involved as early as you possibly can, perhaps even as you're applying for the award, and keep that conversation going. So I'm going to move on now to the actual process of peer review and validations. I think that's the one where people are asking most questions. When we decided on peer review, we were very conscious that one important aspect of school development is the conversations that teachers have about teaching and learning. And what we wanted to do in the award was create a space for those conversations, professional conversations about digital learning and teaching to take place. And what we hope we achieve with this pilot is the creation of that dialogue, both within schools and among organisations. And that's really what the peer review is all about. So we're not asking peer reviewers to mark. We're not asking them to inspect. We're asking them to engage in conversation. Ideally, a peer reviewer should be from within your organisation. And we're already hearing of folks who are saying, well, really, that's not possible because of a small school or of a small organisation. And when there are some exceptions, we talk about those with you and we come to some sort of agreement. But ideally, that person should know what you're doing in your school or in your organisation. Ideally, he or she should have an overview of good digital learning and teaching, and know the value of the sort of work that you're doing and the digital activities that you're engaging in, whether they're influencing, leading, or practitioner based. But know the value, know the pedagogical value, know the learning value of the activities that you engage in. In all of our programs, anybody who gets involved, it's all about support. It's all about help. It's all about recognizing and supporting good practice. And of course, hopefully the peer reviewer will be willing to write a short report. And I feel I must apologise. The toolkit's a fairly large document, but at the end of the toolkit, you'll see some prompts and tips for peer reviewers and for validators, a few helps there to help write the report and what the report should focus on, and so on. The validator then, his or her role is simply to oversee the process of peer review. We're not expecting the validators to examine everything again. What we're expecting the validator to do is to verify that the process was robust, that the process of peer review did what it was supposed to do, and that is have the conversations, recognize the good work, perhaps suggest ways that the application could be improved where that's appropriate, and be in a position to say, yes, the peer review process was, as suggested, robust and thorough and productive and helpful and congratulatory. And, we're asking the validator to be willing to confirm that. And again, hopefully the validator should be within the organization that you're working in. So really, that's the process in a nutshell. You get more information from the toolkit, but what I wanted to do mainly is focus on some of the questions that seem to be arising from some of the emails that we've got. And if you have other questions, you may want to put them in the chat, or we can wait till we can wait till later on. So first key questions: how to identify the best pathway to choose. Have a good close look at the criteria and make sure that you have enough evidence, or that you have a substantial amount of evidence. If you don't have all the evidence, if there are some things in the criteria or the statements that you're not yet doing, it might be a good idea to then start to think about ways in which you can enhance and improve and widen your practice. And we hope the statements are good suggestions, a bit like a roadmap, and help you develop your own practice. And we are totally, when this is rolled out, we want so many teachers to get involved, even if they're not yet doing a lot of the stuff that's suggested here. This could be the impetus for them doing that to get the award. Some people are asking, can I apply for 2 awards? Each award is discrete. It's separate and it has its own pathway. So yes, can't think why you might want to, but they are there. And of course, once it's rolled out, some teachers may apply for the Educator Award, and then perhaps they're working with other teachers, and they some months later they might apply for the Influence or the Leadership Award. Some people will change roles and want to do that, but why you would want to apply for 2 at once, I'm not so sure. Okay. A big question coming through is, what if I cannot get someone from my organization? If you are in a cluster, then that might be a suggestion. If there are some partner schools, or if there's somebody from an LA that you know fairly well and can make informed comment about the work that you're doing, then that's all the better. And we think if some teachers are working with clusters, for example, or partner schools in some way, that inter-school dialogue we think is going to be so much richer for that. But we'll not exclude anybody who can't get someone from their organizations. We'll try and widen that out for you. Can 2 applicants from one school use the same evidence? Well, the answer is yes and no. There will be, for example, in one school, there will be policy evidence. There might be CLPL evidence that both teachers or any number of teachers can use. So in that sense, some of that strategic work is going to be the same. But the application of the digital learning and teaching will be yours. So if there are several applicants from one school, yes, use some of that policy evidence, use some of the, there will be apps and platforms and software that you both use, but make sure you present the evidence of your work either as an educator, as an influencer, or as a leader. And that's extremely important to do that, and make sure there is, forgive the expression, some clear blue water when it comes to how you have applied the criteria in your own context. Make sure that that's quite distinctive. If the peer reviewer doesn't agree with my submission and asks for more, again, this is a dialogue, this is a conversation, and certainly, we hope that conversation can be resolved relatively easily and straightforward. And again, we refer back to the criteria and the examples and the links to help with that. So hopefully that that doesn't happen too often, and hopefully where it does happen, it's a good constructive conversation about how to apply and how to widen your practice. I'm a digital leader and I'm a principal teacher in school. There's nobody above me. Well, again, there may be somebody in an LA, there may be somebody in a partner school who knows what you're doing. You may be part of a cluster and have a think, about that. But make sure that someone has a good understanding of digital learning and teaching at either practitioner, at influencer, or at leadership level, whichever pathway you choose. How long will the process take? Well, again, Anna has clearly outlined in terms of the pilot award that we'd like to do that, but I'm really delighted that things happen in schools, and if you take longer to do that, then that's fine. And we realise that schools are incredibly busy places. Things happen, disruption comes in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And we'll work with you in getting the award through for you in the best way we can. And the big one, how much evidence should I submit? In this award, we have put a limit on the number of pieces of evidence. We want the evidence to be representative of the work that you do. We want it to be varied. So we don't want lots and lots of documents that really say the same thing, or examples that say similar things. Just be representative. You've got a representative of a sample of one of the criteria sets, your CLPL. That's fine. If they bring another representative sample of maybe your teaching and learning, if that's appropriate, and so on. So try to represent as broadly, but without putting too many documents in at each section. So explore the process. I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go onto the website now if I can. Let's see if I can get it. Where are we? Yep, here we are. So I'm on the website now, and I'm on the Digital Leadership Award, but I'm going to go back to the Educator Award. You'll see that in the Educator Award, there are the essential and core skills. So there's the statement. That's the statement about what we would expect under that section. There's the evidence examples, and please, 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 these are just suggestions for you. You don't need to do any or all of these. They are just for you there. And then these are all the links that we think might help you. If you do need help, if you do need assistance, if you do need more information, they're the links that will help you. And then some supporting comments. Please explain the evidence that you've uploaded, and give us some sort of context for what it is and why you've uploaded it, so that we know and your reviewer knows what it is you're doing, and so on. And then so there you can upload all your work there, and then the validator, or in this case the peer reviewer, that perhaps should be, will make his or her comment. And again, on the toolkit, there's guidance as to the comment. We're not asking for a lot of information. We're simply asking for verification that the work is being done, that it's good and it's of quality, and perhaps any highlights. If you can highlight really excellent practice, examples of excellent practice, if you can highlight, for example, perhaps things that might be taken on board by other teachers, if you can highlight things that maybe the person might, the person you're reviewing might want to take on board, and where there are perhaps areas we always have this award with target. We'll give the person the award if he or she is working towards it with the agreement that within a certain space of time, there will be any deficits will be addressed. And that's a recognition that teachers, busy people, are working towards the target. So that pattern of statements, examples, the links and so on, the explanation, and the validator or the influencer, the peer reviewer, that pattern is the same for each of the 3 pathways. So if I go back up again, then you can go on to the influencer award pathway, have a look at what he or she is required to do there, and then you might say, well, okay, this is something that I've been doing and I fit that, or I don't fit that that award pathway. Or again, you can go on to the leadership award pathway, and there's the work that you're doing there. So you might say, yes, I'm doing all of that, or no, I'm going back to either the influencer or the educator award pathway. So really, I'll stop there and come out of that, and I think it's probably, I could take any questions if you have any.
Hi there. I don't know, this is Christine here. I don't know if this is a suitable question for yourself or not. We and my team, there's quite a few of us, and we're actually going through the Influencer Awards. So we encountered various small administrative problems with creating our site just because of the nature of it. Because we are sort of then part of an authority, not in a school. So we've created our site now, but what's happened is we seem to be having problems with our Intel links. So if we go to try and do any of the modules, when we access the link, it tells us to register every time we access the link. I have gone on and I've managed to create a password. I was just about ready to complete the second module. I had asked why I hadn't received a certificate for the first one, and now all my progress has disappeared completely. So.
Right, it's an issue that I can't answer if it's an Intel problem there. I don't know, Emmanuel or Margaret.
Oh yes, let me take that. First off, really sorry you had to go through that.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
Could you let me drop my email
in
the chat box? Please send me an email. Of course, copy Crystal, not the best, but please send me. Let me look into that, and if you could share as much information about what has happened, that shouldn't be the case at all. We would look into it and then resolve it. It should keep your history of your, every program, every course you've completed, and you should get notifications of when it's been completed and when your certificates should be delivered to you.
Sure. May I just suggest, I think there might be a problem between the DSAS site and the Intel site, because at one point it was saying that my account was a cloned account. So when we were getting the links, we weren't getting the right, when we got the link, we could access the Intel site, but it was asking us for a password. And when we had gone through the link that the DSAS people had supplied, there was no place in which to put in a password structure. So I'm just saying there might be a little bit of interaction needed between yourselves somewhere.
I understand. Just let me have that email.
Okay,
we'll investigate and get to the bottom of it real quick.
It's fine. No, that's good. No, it's really good feedback, Christine. And the link that you're talking about, was that in an email? Was it on the framework itself? I mean, just from a technical point of view, which link did you access the Intel modules from?
It was from the original toolkit that you had sent us in the first meeting. So it was going into that link there and then registering. And then we got a link through our Microsoft account. And it was a long, a long one that you would put on the top of the screen. access that, and then it would send you into the face screen, but it would then ask for a password. But we hadn't had the opportunity to create a password. Some of my colleagues are still in that position where they can't access the material because they haven't got a password to access it in the first place.
Okay, because I know that a special unique password is set up for this particular pilot, so that anybody going in registering on the Intel modules would then be recognized as being part of this program, so we could sort of assess, you know,
Yes,
how that was working. So I'm wondering, is that the password you're talking about?
Yes.
Because
So
yeah, that could be.
Okay. So for example, I was on Emmanuel's course that he did in February, and he was saying
Yes.
that he could track the DSAS progress of
Applicants
everyone, and I'm suddenly thinking, wait a minute, I don't think he can because I have got an individual account.
Yeah. Ah, yes.
Okay. So, Anna, let me drop just for clarification, I am putting the verification code once again in the chat. Please be certain that you registered using this. Now, if you had, for some reason, registered with some other code, please share your email with us. So we want to ensure that everyone who is registered from this program is using the Digital Awards SFI verification code.
Right. Well, I don't think they are then, and I think that's our issue at our end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suspect it's from that point. So please, if you have similar cases with Ms. McDonald, kindly send an email to me. Let me drop the email for Crystal also, copy Crystal, and then let me have that. We will get to the bottom of it. We will first confirm if you are one on the SFI platform, and then we would find a way to transition you into the Digital Awards SFI code. So that way you are all part of that particular verification system.
Thank you very much.
Apologies for that.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Sorry, it's obviously been our confusion somewhere along the line, but it's just to highlight that if people are doing that going forward, it really has to be made clear that, you know.
I agree.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so we actually follow up from this call. We'll obviously, you know, share the link to the recording, but we will reiterate, I think that point, Christine, that, you know, everybody should be registering with this code. And I mean, Emmanuel, I think it's probably a good opportunity to hand over to yourself and Margaret. I know that you were perhaps going to maybe share an example of one of the modules, but also I think it would be, after we can take your question, Ms. Mutter, before we maybe hand over to Manuel. But I know Margaret has been able to join us, and I'm really interested to see how the modules link in with the Intel Ambassador program as well. But Ms. Mutter, do you have a question?
Yeah, actually, I've posted two in the chat. So I'm the peer reviewer for my school, but I will also be applying. But I need someone to peer review mine, which is fine because I have somebody in mind from another local school who's also on the pilot. What I wanted to know was, I'll need to add them into my school's portal?
Yes, you do.
So that I can do that, and they will probably have to add me into their portal so that I can peer review them, because they are also the peer reviewer in their school.
Yes. Yeah. And so what will happen, you as an applicant, when you've completed your submission, you will be brought, you know, once you're ready to submit, you will be brought to a list of the peer reviewers for your organization, and you will choose one. So and then they will receive the link to your application. So whoever is responsible for the organization, you set up those roles at the beginning. So when applicants are ready to submit, they'll be able to see the list of peer reviewers that they can choose from.
That's fine. That's okay.
Perfect.
So I know what I'm doing with that. The other question I had was about the Intel units. Do applicants actually have to do the units? Do they need to do any of them, or can they miss them out entirely and still apply and get the award? Just so that I know what I'm telling the folks in my school, whether they have to do something or whether they're allowed to miss.
Yeah, so I think as Victor said, they're not compulsory. And obviously for some schools or for some educators, you know, you could be on a particular, you know, education path. But what we have done, and obviously working with Intel, there are a lot of benefits, I think, to using the Skills for Innovation modules. And, you know, over the course of the last number of months, I think we have shown how we have worked so that the modules that we're presenting are actually aligned to the different pathways. But they're not compulsory, and, you know, we would recommend that perhaps you can look into them, and there could be material and learning pathways there that would be relevant.
Perfect. Yeah, I think they would be really relevant, but I can see some people might want to miss them out entirely and just, but it's just so that I
Come
knew
back
what
to them.
part
Yeah.
line was for them. But that's perfect. Thanks very much.
Yeah. No problem. Thanks very much.
Could I maybe just piggyback on the back of that comment there and just say that in the Influencer Award, it's 4 separate courses with the courselets. So that would be 24 hours worth of study. So I would suggest that maybe schools moving forward, they might have to put that in part of their plan, because that is rather a large amount of people's CPD time. Just a thought.
Yeah.
It's a very good suggestion.
And Callum has a question.
Callum, yeah.
Yeah, you just very quickly. It was more like what, as Christine kind of alluded to, there's kind of 4 obviously different areas. Do you have to go through 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, or can you then go? Because I know looking at the kind of breakdown of the skills that are in them, there's like 1 and 2 would be ones that our team would have probably already touched upon via other avenues. So whereas like 3 would have been probably where I would have started to get into there. So it'll be okay to kind of jump straight into one area rather than doing the others.
Well, I'd let you, Emmanuel, maybe answer that, but I think the answer is yes. The courses can be picked up at any point, you know, depending on where you are and what's most relevant on your particular.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, this would be a good place to jump in. So you can take it in whatever sequence you choose to. Just bear in mind that as it pertains to the pilots, you would need to focus on the courses that are mapped to the awards. That's for that, and then you can choose to spread it out to Ms. McDonald's point. You can spread it out, you know, on your own time, and you know, pace yourself. You don't have to. You don't have to do it in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks. You can pace yourself. You know, make sure that the peer reviews, the peer reviews are worthwhile. But pace yourself. So yeah, you can pick whatever time span you want to, but just keep it focused on the pilot and keep it focused on the mapping. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, sure thing. Unfortunately, Margaret had to drop off. I had to drag her, you know, into the meeting. She sends her sore apologies. She really wanted to talk about the ambassador program. It piqued her interest that the pilot was interested in it. She is really the driver of the ambassador program. What we will do is perhaps have a discussion. We're already talking about it, what to do post this webinar. Where she will have the time and schedule to be available to talk about that extensively. What I will quickly do, because we're running out of time quickly, is just to show you how it looks like, the modules, the courses, and on the SFI platform. Just maybe a couple of minutes to go through that. We are almost out of time. So from the landing page, now, if you're unable to do this with whatever reasons, please do send me an email like I have earlier said, so we can rectify that. You should be able to gain access into the Intel SFI website post login. So from here, you can access the levels. I will just quickly go to level 2. Pretty much because level 2 is quite central to the DES mappings. And I could pick a course. Let me pick course 2. And each course is mapped to 3 courselets. Just essentially, we name them courselets. It's like a course within a course, you know, to allow you self-pace your learning process. And let's pick course 1, courselet 1 in course 2, getting ready for Educator 4.0. And after a moment, it's going to open up. And the design and the nature of these courselets are such that it is not timed. So don't feel pressured to rush through these courselets. Yeah, you can take your time. You can, go for a tea break. If you have to do it within maybe a free period for your next class while you're preparing, you can do that. There is no, as you can see, there are no timers anywhere telling you to complete it in 50, 40, or 30 minutes. So you can take your time, go through the introduction, and then before you start the course. Now, even when you start it, there is no timer. So do not feel under any pressure to rush through. The goal is to learn as much as you can, and each of the lessons avail you with interactive tools, to engage with the content of the lessons. And yeah, for example, there are slide cards. I'm looking for a discussion board. At this point, there are options where you can discuss with other users who are taking the courselet. So you are not taking these particular lessons in isolation. And there are interactive tools too. Let me look for, I just passed. Yeah, there is one there. Interactive tools. Yeah, this is a Padlet. This is filled by educators from across the world. You can add yours to it. These are entries by a variety of educators. So you are looking at perspectives and comments from different teachers, educators, administrators from across the world. So you can add just to it, or you can read up on what your fellow educators on the platforms have learned. I think I would stop here. I have gone past the time, if that's okay. So yeah, the point line is, please, if you can gain access to the SFI platform, avail yourself of any of those tools. Krugen, there's a hand raised.
Perfect. Thanks, Emmanuel. So we have sort of reached the 45 minutes. Is there any questions, I mean, outside of even what we've discussed today, anything that's sort of pressing, any issues that you'd like to sort of us to address on the call? I mean, we do get queries, via email, and so continue to send them. Very happy to help you, and they're all very helpful for us in terms of seeing if there are if you've got a problem, somebody else probably has the same. So, do let us know. Is there anything that you want us to touch on here and now? Victor obviously took you through some of the detail again around the application. Joe.
Listen, I'm just being, well, I'm a useful idiot. It's just so you know what happened to me. I seem to go in round and round in a loop, but I've just discovered why. More than a year ago, I registered for Intel, the Intel course with my email, Joe Wilson, City Glasgow College. So I got stuck in a loop there. And also, I probably hadn't looked at the onboarding video that you kindly sent me properly to register the institution properly. So I've really been, I've been showing, what I've been doing in the inside is I've been showing other people how to do all of this. And in the inside, like panicking because like I'm very techie and I'm like, why doesn't it recognize my password? This isn't happening. So just in case anybody else has been idiotic like me, I thought it'd be good just to tell that tale that I've been kind of stuck on the front doorstep. But this has been really useful because I'll use this to move things forward. And but I have been warming up my staff development colleagues and other people inside the organisation.
No, super. Really appreciate that, Joe, and we really appreciate the fact that you're taking part in this trial, because I know that there's 100 million things that are going on. So anything that we can do to make things easier for you and your colleagues, and if you need us to do like a short session with you as a group, we'd be happy to do that, so we, for everybody, if there's anything that we can do to just make this easier, let us know. Christine.
Hello, yes, just to say, I seem to be on an Intel loop personally this afternoon, but just to say that if you are uploading something, a task from one of the courselets, I have found it easier to upload a PDF version rather than a Word version. And also on some of the courselets, the polls have closed. So it asks you to input a reaction, but you can't because it said that the poll or not a Padlet so much, but one of the polls are closed. And then the last thing is that there's at least one quiz where there's meant to be 2 quizzes and one has disappeared. So just mentioning.
Okay, noting this. Thank you for saying that. Noting them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Christine. I like
Pleasure.
if my screen doesn't share, I'm going to sort of just bow out. But
It's starting to share. It looks like it's trying to share anyway. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. This is just the toolkit, and we didn't get a chance, or Victor hasn't shared it yet, but down at the end from sort of area 9 onwards, there's guidelines for peer reviewers. There's an aid memoir for the peer reviewer for each of the different awards. And there's even a short checklist for applicants, but could also be used by peer reviewers in terms of, you know, things to sort of check off when, you know, completing your application. So the frequently asked questions also covers some questions that validators or peer reviewers might also have. And I just wanted to sort of flag those. So if you do have that toolkit and you want to share it with a peer reviewer or a validator, there is some helpful short, you know, ways to kind of, you know, sort of look at what are the things that I need to do as a peer reviewer and or as an applicant. And I just wanted to share that there with you, just in case you hadn't seen that. So if there's no other questions, I'll close this call. Individually, please don't hesitate to get in touch. And perhaps, Emmanuel, we'll do a short email out just clarifying the registration process for Intel Skills for Innovation. And if Margaret has some content about the Ambassador Programme, perhaps we could sort of include that, because the Intel Ambassador Programme is quite new. We would love to have some of the educators applying for the awards here to be amongst the first in Scotland to be part of the Intel Skills for Innovation Ambassador Programme. I think that would be something that could be sort of worthwhile coming out of this process. So
Absolutely.
I think as much information as we can give to the applicants, you know, we should do as part of this process. I think that would be interesting for everyone. So
that's fine.
If we need to, we will definitely host another clinic. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 applicants that may be nearing the process of final validation. There's been a couple of queries in about that. If you have anything in the next couple of months, you know where we are. I hope we'll be able to resolve any of the queries that you do have, and best of luck with all your applications and peer reviewing. There will be a final survey in May. We would be delighted to have the feedback and for that to be included in the final recommendation for the programme. So with that, have a lovely evening. Thank you so much for your time. It's great to see you again, and we'll stay in touch over the next few weeks. If I don't see you beforehand, happy St. Patrick's Day for anybody who likes a little bit of green. So, okay, well, look, that's great, everyone. Thank you very much. Take care. We'll see you again.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks very much.
Thank you.